Holy Spirit, move. 'Cause when you have your way, something has to break. Tear down every lie, set the wrong thing right. 'Cause when you have your way, something has to break. Something has to break.
Holy Spirit, move. 'Cause when you have your way, something has to break. Tear down every lie, set the wrong thing right. 'Cause when you have your way, something has to break. Something has to break. Something has to break. Right now in your name, something has to break. Something has to break. Something has to break. Right now in your name, something has to break. Holy Spirit, move. 'Cause when you have your way, something has to break. Tear down every lie, set the wrong thing right. 'Cause when you have your way, something has to break. Something has to break. Something has to break. Right now in your name, something has to break. Something has to break. Something has to break. Right now in your name, something has to break. Something has to break.
I believe you'll lead me through it. I believe you'll get me to it. I believe that you will do it right now. Something has to break. I believe you'll lead me through it. I believe you'll get me to it. I believe that you will do it right now. Something has to break. I believe you'll lead me through it. I believe you'll get me to it. I believe that you will do it right now. Something has to break. Something has to break. Right now in your name, something has to break. Something has to break. Something has to break. Right now in your name, something has to break. I believe you lead me through it. I believe you get me to it. I believe that you will do it right now. Something has to break. I believe you lead me through it. I believe you get me to it. I believe that you will do it right now. Something has to break. I believe you lead me through it. I believe you get me to it. I believe that you will do it right now. Something has to break. Something has to break. Right now in your name,
I'm severely color deficient, and I don't know what those colors look like. So I went to the eye doctor, and I got glasses that I could see, and it's almost, I say almost, it is very depressing to put those on because everything changes, and I take it off. What that tells me is it's a lot worse to have had something and have it taken away than to have never had it. Mephibosheth, 5 years old. Believe me, 5-year-olds know how to run around. My child didn't have a nap, so if you heard the siren during service, he's only 3. And believe me, he knows how to run around. There's no doubt. Liam, wherever he ran off to, knows how to run around. They know how to use their feet and hands most of the time to fight, but they know how to use these things. And to go at 5, gone. They were leaving because Saul and Jonathan was dead. And when a king goes to another king, it wasn't this, great passing of the torch. It wasn't, here you go, you can have it. So naturally, Jonathan's son, Saul's grandson, the person that was taking care of him, was like, well, this is not great. News came down that Saul was dead. I'm about to lose my house. I'm about to lose, insert whatever they were going to lose. So tries to flee. And Mephibosheth becomes lame. Can you imagine, just for a moment, the pain that a 5-year-old would feel? There wasn't great technology that there is today. He didn't get a wheelchair and go play wheelchair basketball. Didn't get to happen that way. When you were lame, you were pretty much worthless. There was no value that you could bring to anybody. And so he must have felt that way. See, running is an important example in the Bible. Paul referenced it many times. Compared living to God as running in a race. It's really hard to run when you're lame. I'm finding out it's hard to run when you get older. It's just harder to run. And even if you can, it hurts worse the next day. It's just different. Well, running is an important piece. And to be paralyzed, it would cripple your ability to run. In the physical, we can understand that. But in the spiritual, it's much more harder to determine when somebody has been paralyzed spiritually. It's a lot harder to determine when somebody has lost their true love for the Lord. It's harder sometimes to determine when somebody has lost their ability to seek the Lord. Like it or not, that is a form of paralysis. When we lose our desire for God and we lose our desire for the things of the Lord, there's a spiritual paralysis that begins to happen and we cannot run the race the way we should. Every failure that I've had in my life, I can look back and say, yeah, I stopped believing in God the way I should have at that moment. I can look back and say, yeah, I remember that when this happened, but if I look back a week before that or 2 weeks before that or a month before that, I'd stopped praying, I'd stopped fasting, I'd stopped really believing that the Lord is my God. And I fell. Because spiritual paralysis leads to physical vulnerabilities. Failing to live for God spiritually cripples us, sometimes even physically. We've talked about this a lot. The spirit and the flesh are lusting against each other. Well, if you're not taking care of the spirit, the flesh is going to win every time. It's just how it is. So what's the purpose of an altar? The most common thing scripturally seemed to be for sacrifice. In the Old Testament, they literally sacrificed animals. Yet time and time again, the people of God would walk away from the Lord. And what would they do? They would build altars to a false god. And then a king would get right with God, and what would he do? He would come and destroy the altars of the false god and build new altars to the Lord. They would do this as a form of sacrifice. But it wasn't only meant for sacrifice. There was other purposes for altars. We obviously don't sacrifice animals, so we don't need that physical representation necessarily. Moses did out of Egypt, and he parted the waters so they could go by on Jordan. So it says when they had clean passed over Jordan, that the Lord spake unto Joshua, saying, take you 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe of man, and command ye them, saying, take ye hence out of the midst of Jordan, out of the place where the priest's foot stood firm, 12 stones, and ye shall carry them over with you, and leave them in the lodging place, where ye shall lodge this night. Then Joshua called the 12 men whom he had prepared out of the children of Israel, out of every tribe a man. And Joshua said unto them, Pass over before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of Jordan, and take you up every man of you a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of tribes of the children of Israel, that this may be a sign among you, that when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, What mean ye by these stones? Then ye shall answer them that the waters of Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it passed over Jordan, the waters of Jordan were cut off, and these stones shall be for a memorial unto the children of Israel forever. You see times where Abraham had prepared a place of sacrifice, and the Lord had stepped up and saved Isaac. And you see him say, I'm preparing this altar that everybody will remember. There was a memorial, if you will. So you can almost substitute those in, that it's a memorial, a reminder. So that 10 years from now, when Kai is 19, she can find this book and say, wow, look what God was doing for me. Look what God was doing for my family, for my friends, for my neighbors, for my acquaintances, friends. Look what God was doing for me. Don't want to forget the good things of the Lord. I don't want years to go by and just take it for granted what God has done for us. Tonight we need to take inventory of ourselves and look back on the places that God made a way when it seemed impossible. Children of Israel at the Red Sea parted. Moses led them across. Leaving the wilderness. Now they're at Jordan. Parted. Walked across. Memorial. Let's not forget what God has done. Sometimes we need to be reminded that when we had no way out, God delivered. Sometimes we need to remember that even when we weren't worthy, the Lord provided a way of escape. But the original temple that was built in the Old Testament, first of all, was a tent, and then there was some other things that went into it. But when David wanted to build this great temple, he couldn't because he had too much blood on his hands. So Solomon had to build it. But remember, they sacrificed actual animals. They needed a place to make this thing work out. But there's many, many, many scriptures that I myself have preached on. One such is 1 Corinthians 3:16 and 17. It says, Know you not that you are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy, for the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. I believe in this. I believe we are the temple. I really do. But it is important to think about really what it means. The temple of God. When we think about that, it might give us pause to realize where our spirit's at and if it is in a place of being paralyzed or not. When we think about that we really are the temple of the Lord, it might make us make decisions different. Right? Anybody else feel that way? Might be a little easier to make the correct decision. Well, should I do this or should I do that? Oh, yeah, I'm the temple of God. I should not do that one. But in those moments, we don't think like that. We think, oh, this is my life. This is how I want to do it. And sometimes we miss out on things. An idol, biblically speaking, is something that is worthless, good for nothing, vain, vanity for false gods. When the children of Israel would begin to walk away from the Lord, they would begin to build these false idols, these altars to these false idols that they had made a priority in their life. They begin to magnify this thing that was not God. In the opening text, I read about Mephibosheth. Do you know it goes pretty quiet on the subject of Mephibosheth? It's quite interesting that you read it, and it's just, here's this thing in passing, and there's this guy that was Jonathan's son, which if you don't know was David's best friend, and he had Saul's grandson, and here he was, and he was lame, and then just quiet. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What details are we getting left out of? And then we find further down, all the way in chapter 9, Mephibosheth resurfaces. Can we just take a minute to realize that we're here tonight to serve a God that will restore what was taken? Mephibosheth leaves, and the servant of Mephibosheth is still there, and David says, hey, we're going to take care of you. We're going to do these good things. But as for Mephibosheth, he will be eating at my table. He emphasized, I want to restore the things that were taken away from him. I want to give him at least a piece of peace, an opportunity of joy, an opportunity of restoration from a guy that had been lame and running all of his life. And I don't think it's by coincidence that he just got through saying, hey, I'm going to restore everything that was taken from you. I'm going to restore every revival that has been taken from you. I'm going to restore everything that you once had and lost. And then also said, my people shall never be ashamed. We're living in a time that there is so much chaos happening and so much attack coming against the church that sometimes we may be hesitant to say, I believe in the Lord. But my people shall never be ashamed. I don't want to be ashamed of the Lord. God is ready to restore. We need to wake up and realize that there is a place at the King's table for us. There is a place at the King's table for you and I. God is ready to restore. It just so happens that the name Mephibosheth has a very interesting meaning. The name literally means exterminating the idol. Exterminating the idol. The man that had everything ripped from him at 5 years old was restored to the King's table. Had victory. And his name just happens to mean exterminating the idol. You have a place even here today that you can find what you need. Maybe you've fallen. Maybe you're broken. Maybe you're lame physically, spiritually, mentally. Maybe there's a struggle that is happening for you and I alike. But it's time for the people of God to rise up and be willing to destroy the altar of idols in our life. To rise up and say that I no longer want to pretend that one day I'm the temple of God and one day I'm not. But I want to eliminate the things that would bring me down. I want to eliminate the things that would destroy me. I said at the start that there's power in saying, I believe. There is so much power in just declaring, Lord, I am yours. I'll worship you. I need to be restored. I've had years taken off my life. I need to be restored. I tell you, I'm praying with everything inside of me that Brittany is made whole. The doctor said she wouldn't live past 30, and yet here she is, still alive, still positive, still believing that God is God. We need an undeniable presence of the Lord, and it's at our fingertips. I don't believe we're waiting on God. I believe God is waiting on us. I'll say that again. I do not believe that we are waiting on God. God had this building in place before we even had a church. Understand tonight that God had a way before you even walked in that door to restore you to the King's table. Where there's fellowship, where there's joy, where there's peace, where there's life more abundantly. Today, we need to declare, I will have victory. In my life, there will be victory. In my situation, there will be victory. I'm ready to exterminate the idols in my life. You are here today at the King's table. What do you need from the Lord?